The wagon wheel obstacle. A horse agility skill, hock suppleness and horizontal flexion, and the handler's energy control. This is what we're after in the end. We want the horse to walk around the wagon wheel with the handler walking around the outside. But we don't usually start there. There are two ways to start this, and I'm going to go through and look at both. But some prerequisites first. Your horse needs to walk smoothly with you, just with a nice looped rope. And your horse needs to be comfortable and confident, just walking a little circle around you. It needs to have developed a little bit of horizontal flexion. Those muscles don't get used a lot in everyday life with horses, so it's really a gymnasticizing exercise. If we expect them to be able to do that, we need to develop their bodies, take them to the gym. Now here's a way to develop flexion. You ask the horse to move away from you around a large object. You can see how much flexion and how much underneath her belly that hind leg comes as she comes around the barrel. And here we're going around the barrel plus over a log, which is leading nicely into when we eventually step over the wagon wheel logs. Smokey's not as supple, and he hasn't had as much work doing this stuff, so Bridget is using a little bit of energy from her rope just to get him to bend around. And you never want to do too much of this before you give the horse a break. Now you can see that Smokey's got a mat there he's targeting with his feet. So to get him slightly keener to actually do the bending exercise, we've given him a destination. And he gets a click and treat at the destination, so he's got a purpose to actually go around there and head back. So now you can see he's not quite sure, why should I go around here? I don't really want to flex that way. Not that happy about it. And just for them, you'll see in a moment, he'll see his mat. Oh yeah, there's my mat, away I go. So it gives him a happy purpose to keep practicing. Another way to develop your flexion is just to walk up to a large object like a barrel and just send your horse around it. Stand still, wait for the horse to come around, and then walk away again. It's a nice way to introduce circles as well. And another way is to walk around there with your horse and practice your energy. Notice I keep my energy up and I bend my own body into the circle, and Boots comes right around. If you stall your body out, the horse will stall out. And obviously the next prerequisite is that the horse is perfectly comfortable and confident walking over all sorts of rails. So we've got a log there and got 2 rails to walk over here. And you don't want that sort of thing. You don't want the horse tripping up over his feet. What you can do is combine the walking over the rails with your sending the horse away from you around an obstacle. So if you put an obstacle either side of your rails, then you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And there's 3 rails now, so you work yourself up to 6 rails and build in the flexion around. You can see he's still a little bit resistant coming around. Now we're up to 4 rails, and notice Bridget's walking over the rails with him at first. And now she's walking on the outside of the rails, because eventually you want the horse on the rail and yourself not on the rail. So you've changed a paradigm, so it's good to actually point that out. And you see how he resists bending here? He's doing a counter turn, a counter bend. And again, she's going to send him around the marker. It makes it less boring because you're working on 2 things at the same time. Now, if you can, take the whole idea out somewhere else. We've got 6 rails now, and they're quite a bit higher than just round rails. Smokey has to lift his feet. Still learning his flexion around. You can see he's getting a little bit more supple there. And this time he's looking very carefully. They're uneven sizes. Then we've put them into a sort of a log jam shape. And you can see there he's not sure. He's sort of sidling out of them, looking very carefully. And the second time round, he's already much more confident and looking at the spacing of the rails, which is what we eventually want him to do. Now we've put out 4 rails on the ground, And because Boots tends to rush, we're asking her to go step over one rail and then stop for a click and treat. So we're stepping over one rail, stop for a click and treat. So if your horse tends to rush, that's a good way to slow them down. If you don't want to click and treat, just stop and rest, give them a scratch. Just have a little whoa time. Now a very nice example of a finesse start off there, running her hand down the rope. Now we've gone to a different venue and we're doing the same thing with the rails one at a time. One raised rail at a time, and we're sure to do it walking on both sides of the horse each time. And notice we've got markers where the other rails will end up. You see how she's still rushing there? And Bridget wants to walk on the outside of those markers so that she can keep a nice steady circle as we add in each of the rails. And remember, we're always doing it in either direction. That's all we really did. We did it one way and then we did the other way, then we added one rail. And Bridget walked around the outside of those spots. Up to 4 rails now. And sometimes Bridget will step over the rail just to... And you can see she's not rushing quite so much there. And she still gives her regular halts with a click and treat. And Bridget's walking more around the outside. Got all 6 rails up now. Still a little bit of tension on the rope to get her to slow down, but not too bad at all. Now here's another way to deal with this whole thing, a different approach altogether, and this is the one I probably will prefer if I was going to teach it to another horse. I lay all 6 rails out flat, and then I walk an inner circle across the rails and ask the horse to walk the outer circle with me. And again, if she was rushing, I would do more stopping, and I would do it in both directions until we're confident with that. The next slice would be for me to stay standing in the center and just ask the horse to move around me. This is where that very first circle that I put in as a prerequisite is important. You want the horse confident, just walking around you in a normal circle before you ask them to step over things. And you want them to step over rails in a straight line before you ask them to step over rails like this. Now I've put the first one up on the tire, and I'm walking around with her, and now we've one by one put all 6 of them up. I didn't put them all in the video because it'd be a bit boring, but we eventually got all 6 up. But I did them one at a time. And then we're doing as required for the agility course this month. We walked around the outside and the horse walked around the inside. And she's not rushing too badly. We can keep a nice float in the rope. And finally, we can do it at liberty. And at this point, she was starting to show off a little bit. That, yes, I know what to do here. Let me to it. I can do this. And you can see I have to really hurry to keep her on the outside. But I managed to remind her to do it slowly. Thanks for watching.